Former Vice President Dick Cheney taking aim at the White House when it comes to formulating a strategy for the war in Afghanistan. I think this is a low blow. I really do. I think...
No, not from Dick Cheney.
Anytime Dick Cheney opens his mouth, you think it's a low blow.
No, this one's really low.
What can Dick Cheney say that you don't think's a low blow?
This is a low blow. Cheney accused the administration of being indecisive while U.S. forces are in danger. Take a listen.
Having announced his Afghanistan strategy in March, President Obama now seems afraid to make a decision and unable to provide his commander on the ground with the troops he needs to complete the mission. The White House must stop dithering while America's armed forces are in danger.
This comes as President Obama weighs the military's request for up to 40,000 additional U.S. troops, and here he's talking to NBC's Savannah Guthrie yesterday.
Our strategy in Afghanistan is not just dependent on military forces, it's also dependent on how well we're doing with our civilian development efforts, how well we're doing in stemming corruption. So this is part of a comprehensive strategy. It always has been.
Could you envision, however, announcing a strategy before the runoff is determined?
I think it is entirely possible that we have a strategy formulated before a runoff is determined. We may not announce it.
Cheney also attacked the Obama administration's policies on interrogation. Take a listen, and then we'll all review.
I am not encouraged when intelligence officers who acted in the service of this country find themselves hounded with a zeal that should be reserved for America's enemies. We cannot protect this country by putting politics over security and turning the guns on our own guys.
Okay. Wow. I'm sorry, Joe. It just seems to me. Let's start with the word dithering. This is a guy in an administration that spent 8 years dithering on how to finish this war. It's now been passed over to this administration. Shouldn't he just take a chill pill and hold on and wait and see what the strategy is going to turn out to be? It's coming.
Well, you know, the complaint is that the Republican Party doesn't have, the conservative movement doesn't have a spokesman. I think right now Dick Cheney is one of the few people on foreign policy that can go out and make a statement that a lot of conservatives will listen to and believe in. I suspect that I would not agree with everything that Dick Cheney says on Afghanistan.
Oh, come on, Joe.
I'm trying to figure out the most artful way to say this.
Yeah, there is not one.
I think on Afghanistan, I think the president is taking his time. I wouldn't call it dithering. And what I was going to say, though, it was just so hard to say. While I probably agree with the president's more thoughtful approach to Afghanistan right now than Dick Cheney suggesting he should just make a decision off the top of his head, I think a lot of Americans believe this president is dithering, and I think Dick Cheney speaks for a large chunk of America who is far more aggressive in foreign policy than those of us that live inside this bubble.
All right.
Listen, the dithering thing is great because Cheney, of course, did not dither. He did not dither for a minute when the time came to make a wild guess, an outright crazy wild guess about are there weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? And Cheney sat there in the White House and said, you know what? I got everything I need to make my wild guess. And on the basis of my wild guess, I'm going to tell the country it's an actual fact, and then I'm going to help send American soldiers there to die over a lie.
All right,
no dithering when it came time to do that.
Let us not let facts get in the way. Let us not remember that just about every Democrat from 1998 forward decided that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, that when George W. Bush was sworn in, the Washington Post editorialized that perhaps Mr. Bush's greatest challenge was getting weapons of mass destruction out of Saddam Hussein's hands. Let us not remember that the New York Times editorialized as George W. Bush was coming into office the grave threat from Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction, that Carl Levin suggested that George W. Bush's greatest challenge on the international stage was taking weapons of mass destruction out of his hands. That Bill Clinton, that Al Gore, that John Kerry, that Hillary Clinton, that John Edwards, that just about every major Democrat on the national stage, including Joe Biden, believed Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Please.
And Joe, none of the people you named, Joe, not one of the people you named, when decision time came, not one of them had access to the intelligence information that Dick Cheney had access to, that Dick Cheney decided wasn't good enough, that Dick Cheney decided could be interpreted better by him than by the CIA, by him and by Scooter Libby. Dick Cheney guessed. He took a wild guess, and he spent American lives on his wild guess that was completely wrong.
Lawrence, I know that you're a little crazy, and I know you've got a back pile of appliances that you're trying to sell in the 5 boroughs. But let me tell you, buddy, when you've got the CIA director, you say Dick Cheney's overriding the CIA, you had the CIA director in the Oval Office, and I can't even believe I'm having to explain this again, standing up, waving his arms, saying, Mr. President, it's a slam dunk. He's got weapons of mass destruction. I hate redebating this, but we just can't let false information go out over the show just because you hate Dick Cheney.
Tell me one thing that I said that was false. Tell me one thing.
Everything you say is false, Lawrence, all the time. You just said Dick Cheney sat in his office deciding he knew better than the CIA.
He did. He was running his own intelligence operation. Everybody knows he was running his own intelligence operation, doing his own interpretations of it.
Lawrence, you had the head of the CIA telling George W. Bush that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction.
That is also true. Both of these things are true, Joe.
That wasn't Dick Cheney manipulating the CIA. That was the CIA saying to George W. Bush, who said, this is the best you've got? This is all you've got? And then the CIA says, it's a slam dunk. So we can say Dick Cheney's evil. We can try to say that he lied, that he ginned all this up, that this was Karl Rove and Cheney making stuff up in Texas. That's just not the reality.
Joe, we have a vice president who was a proven liar when it came to the single most important decision that administration made.
We're going to pick this up.
So I give you facts, and you come back with personal attacks.
Did he lie about weapons of mass destruction, Joe? He said they were there. He said we'd be greeted by liberators.
Did he
as
lie?
He was lying. He was guessing and lying.
You love talking about political differences and saying if somebody doesn't agree with you and they end up
treated
being
as
wrong
liberators
in the
is
end,
not a political difference. It was a wild guess by a wild, out-of-control vice president.
I'm going to finish what I'm going to say, Lawrence. It's not lying if you believe it's true. The CIA director believed it was true. Just about every intel agency across the planet believed it's true. The New York Times, the Washington Post, all of your Democratic senator friends believed it was true. Yes. Was he wrong? Yes, he was wrong.
Joe,
was the White House
in a situation of life or death in government, it is lying when you present a wild guess as fact.
Okay, whatever, Lawrence. Hey, Lawrence, does Iran, tell me what Iran's nuclear weapons program is. What's the state of it right now? And if you get it wrong and people die, you're a liar. Go ahead, what is it?
I would not make a wild guess, Joe.
All right,
but if you were sitting in the White House and you had a CIA director,
I wouldn't make a wild guess either.
Lawrence, if you were sitting in the Oval Office and you had a CIA director come in and you were president of the United States and they said, Mr. President, it's a slam dunk, Iran has nuclear weapons and they may use them?
I'll tell you what I would have said, Joe. Exactly what George W. Bush said. Is that all you got after he heard that presentation? He was unimpressed, and rightly so.
Okay,
Dick Cheney was very impressed.
Go sell your appliances.
We will talk more.